There we go. Welcome everyone to Green Thumb Thursdays. Thank you for being here at Morrisson-Reeves Library for our presentation. My name is Beth Herrick. I'm the program specialist here, and we're so happy you could join us. Tonight, the topic is starting seeds indoors. So we're going to learn about how to start your garden, whether it's floral or vegetable, with indoor seed starters. And we have with us an expert, Heather Caldwell, for us. So she is from Purdue Extension in Fayette County. So she came up here to give us the information on that. I have two other things I want to make sure that you know about, and any of our viewers at home know about as well. Earth Day is coming up, and so we have Earth Day celebration. Family Earth Day, may I? Thank you. Is on April 24th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It is at Hayes Arboretum, and it's a coalition of a lot of local organizations that are coming together and put this event on. So I'll have links in the Facebook Live on that as well. And on the reverse side is one of the exhibits that's coming, Indiana's very own Woods on Wheels. So that'll be live there as well. So I know that's a new thing. It's drive-through this year, and this exhibit I think is one that you can engage with. It tells you a little bit about it there. We still have a couple of slots for our remaining two sessions. Next week, the 22nd and the 29th. And so we'd love to have you there if you're not already registered. Without further ado, I'll let Heather come up. She can tell you a little bit about herself and how to start seeds indoors.
That's right. Thanks, Beth. I appreciate the invite, and I know this is... How many of you have been to all of the programs so far? Okay, so several of you. This is great. So I will give a little background about myself. Well, first of all, can you guys hear me okay? Okay, flag me down if it's the middle or something, you're having a struggle hearing me or whatever. As Beth said, my name is Heather Caldwell. I was born and raised in Connorsville on our family farm. We're very proud of the fact that our farm was able to celebrate 200 years in the same family in 2016. So we're pretty proud and happy and excited about that. I've been with Extension for just a year and a half. Before that, I worked 17 years for Cargill Animal Nutrition. And before that, I worked for Grove Veterinary Clinic. So agriculture is just kind of in my being, and I love it. I'm very passionate about it. So I am a 4-H and A&R educator in Fayette County, a split role there. I know a couple of you with Jonathan's programs. He's just an A&R, just an A&R educator. He is an Ag and Natural Resources educator, and he's been doing that for a long time. So he is a mentor to me, and I really appreciate all that he's done for me as well. So let's get started. Starting seeds indoors. So I want to get a little bit of information from you guys just so I know kind of where to proceed. So how many of you have already started some seeds indoors? Okay, a couple of you. How many want to yet this year? Okay, maybe. How many of you are learning for maybe next year or the future? Okay, excellent. That is perfect. That helps me know kind of how to send this presentation. Okay, so let's get started. So when I initially did this presentation, it was a little bit earlier in February, and so we were talking about plan now. But what I want you to know is if you have not done your seed starts yet, it's not too late. You can still start and get things going for this year. Just a few kind of quick things here. So last year at this time, of course, COVID was happening. And I'm sure, as many of you heard, people, and many of you probably were bored, stuck at home. What are we going to do? There was concern about the food supply. There was concern about food safety. Where does our food come from? So last spring, there really became a skyrocketing demand in the interest and in the actual seed starting and garden starting for many people. So because of that, there was a lot of rumors and whatnot in chat rooms or whatever that there was a shortage of seeds. So there's no real evidence that there was a shortage of seeds. More of what it was just a bit of a backlog in supply. because there was so much of the demand, it was bogging people down. Logistics were struggling a little bit. We all know everything was kind of halted for a while, then it was backed up. So I did want to kind of put rest to that rumor a little bit. It's more logistics, not necessarily a seed shortage. And there's many ways that you can order your seeds. How many have ordered seeds through a catalog? So anybody here done catalogs? Yep, a couple of you. How many of you just go to the store and buy your seeds in the packets like you see here on the table? Okay, and how many of you have saved seeds from previous years and started from those? Okay, oh good, quite a few of you. Excellent. Okay, so we are going to talk a little bit about that. So there's many different options, as you all are attesting to, of how you can do this seed starting. Okay, so let's talk about some of those options. First of all, of course, purchase seed packets. So go to the box store, get some seeds, order them online, order them through a catalog, whatnot. There's many ways that you can get those. Then when you get those, if you buy them early in the season, if you buy them now when you want to not plant them yet, you're always going to want to store your seeds in a cool, dry, more dark location. Basements are perfect. How many of you store seeds in basements? That's where I store mine. So, yep, so that's a good way to store them. Another option for selecting your seeds is many of you attested to, you save your seeds from the previous year. So as you probably know, you want to make sure those seeds are dried really well. You don't want mold to be created if you package them up and seal them into a container before they're completely dry. Lay them out, newspaper, workshop bench, somewhere. Get them dried really good, and then put them in a container. Okay, so hybrid seeds. How many of you had any experience with hybrid seeds? Okay, so one person here. So hybrid seeds are marked, as you see here with the circle, they're marked as officially a hybrid seed. Those packages typically cost more. They're billed as seeds that give you higher yield. Some of them have disease resistance built in, and so they do cost a little bit more than that. Now, clearly the gardener has to make the decision. Is your extra cost worth it to you? Do you feel that the extra yield that it's supposed to give you is really worth the money? Then one thing that we do recommend is not saving those seeds year to year. So they're hybrids, they're bringing two things that are the best of the best, bringing them together. A lot of times if you save the seeds, then they produce this random combination of traits that taste often weird or odd or not as rich, if you will, the next year. So it's not recommended to save those, just buy those again the next year and go from there. All right. Any questions on the seeds? Just your selection of seeds. You guys seem to have good experience with that, so that's good. Okay, so let's talk about containers. So we've all probably seen every one of these containers, right, that are in the pictures up here. So make sure that your containers are sturdy, that they are properly cleaned. How many of you save these kind of containers from year to year to use again? Yeah. So make sure that you clean those out really, really good. They can carry disease onto next year if you don't clean them out well. Use a little bleach water, clean it up. Obviously, make sure you clean the bleach out really well or you're going to have a big problem. So get those rinsed out really well. As it's mentioned here, you've got wood or plastic flats, plastic fiber trays, clay pots, these peat pots in the middle. Those are just the trays at the top. I was just at a friend's house yesterday who's doing seed starting, and she's using those trays, the old cafeteria lunch trays. She's using those as her seed starts container. So I had not seen that before. I thought that was a pretty clever idea. So these divided containers, these may actually help you as you move forward in your progression of going from seed to seedling, as it's going to help prevent the roots from growing together. Whereas up here, if you use a flat, it's going to Obviously, there's nothing to stop the roots from growing into each other, but we'll talk about a little bit more about that as we continue on. All right, so now I say soil selection, but what I really mean is seed starting mix. So there is, just as you can buy potting soil, you can also buy seed starting mix in a bag. A lot of times that's a mix more of peat moss and vermiculite. That type of soil substitute, if you will, is a lighter, fluffier type of soil. It's not actually soil, but it is excellent for starting because it's looser and it allows the roots to really kind of spread out. There's less compaction. It's just a looser, kind of more fluid type of soil that provides the nutrients that you need. So you'll take that starting mix it with some water, and then spread it out in your containers. So be sure as well that you will have containers that allow for excellent drainage. So this thing, I put this in here because I am guilty of this myself. I'm a packer when it comes to soil for some reason, whether it's in my house plants, in my garden, whatever it is. I have to get out of that tendency for me to be like, get it all in there and make sure that the plant's going to have a good stand. That's where my mind initially wants to go. But you don't want to do that. You want to give your roots plenty of space, if you will, and air to be able to grow and move. Anybody else guilty of packing soil? Come on, don't make me feel alone. Oh, good. I don't know what it is about me, but I've always been that way. My dad is always, even as a kid, don't pack it in, Heather, just relax. Okay. All right, so now it's time to put the seeds in our soil that's in our excellent containers that are clean, free of any disease that we've chosen. All right, so the proper time to plant depends upon when we want it to be headed outside. So read your packet. Most are between 4 and 14 weeks. Just figure out, okay, I'm going to aim for, the rule of thumb, if you will, is Mother's Day-ish. Around there last year, we clearly had a late frost in May, so that was pretty nerve-wracking for a lot of people. So if you think, okay, Mother's Day, and your packet tells you it's going to take 14 weeks for you to be able to get your harvest, then just figure that kind of back things up a little bit. Okay, if you are planting small seeds in the flat, so that was that first container that we showed no dividers in there, a good rule of thumb is to create rows about 2 inches apart. Now, this is another thing that's super important that I think some people may forget. Label, label, label. Whether you use masking tape, painter's tape, popsicle sticks, whatever it takes, cute little flags that you find on Pinterest or something that you want to make. Label, label, label. What are you going to label this with? Somebody tell me some information that you will want on this label.
What you planted.
What you planted. I mean, you're going to want to know. Okay, where am I going to put this? I don't want to put, some tomatoes and then some carrots and then, hopefully you know the difference between those two. But, you want to definitely label what you've got. What else can we have on that information?
The date that you planted them.
Yes, the date that you planted them. Excellent. What's another thing you might want to know? Any other information you might want?
The variety.
The variety, yep. You might want to know, when is this going to come to fruition? So that you know, okay, you can kind of plant, if you do your garden in a way of when is it going to be harvested, that might be important information to you. Really, whatever information that you need to plan your garden, put that all in there. Because if you're like me, you're like, I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember where I put those keys, that I'm going to, remember where that is. No. And then I go find them, and they're not in the drawer I thought I put them in. So, label, label, label. All right. So, some seeds like cucumbers, melons, they're a larger seed. I would recommend go ahead and planting them initially into a larger container. because it's going to grow a little bit faster and you're going to need a little bit more space. And then again, cover the seeds according to package instructions. So you're seeing a bit of a theme here. Package instructions. Make sure you follow those instructions because they're experienced. They know what they're doing. Read your labels. So a general rule of thumb, excuse me, is that seeds can be covered to a depth about 2 times their diameter. So really think about that. Like a seed is like this. You don't need a lot of soil over it. My second tendency is to throw the soil on. Those are my 2 things. Pack in, put in a lot of soil. So don't do as Heather has to remind herself not to do. Usually it's just a light covering of soil over the top of it. Any questions so far, comments? If you have feedback to give to the group, please share. A lot of you have different experience, and I want you guys to be able to learn from each other as well. Yes?
Are the trays and containers, are they readily available to buy?
Yes, they are available. A lot of times you can find them on Amazon, like everything else. They are in some box stores. If you want big volumes of them, Amazon's probably the way to go. But they do have them, yes, readily available. Yes.
I usually plant zinnias from seed.
Yes.
And it's like this itty tiny.
Yes.
And yeah, so can you just really just pat it down?
Just do a little covering. And a pat is okay. Just don't get your hands and your muscles in there. But yes, I think patting is fine, yes.
Because the birds find them.
I know. That's always my thing too. Or the bunnies or something like that. I'm always like, oh, that's where my mind goes too. So yes, I think, cover them and just don't be super generous with it, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just another idea.
Yes, please.
My daughter-in-law uses plastic milk jugs. She cuts the jug off about 3 inches high and puts the soil in and a few seeds, and then she tapes it back together.
Excellent. That's a great idea.
Then she take the cap off and you put it outside, and she called it winter sowing, SOW.
There you go.
Sowing, yeah.
Do you?
And it's really neat because they don't begin to grow until the weather is, the right time.
I
So you just
love
sit
this.
there and you can let the rain do whatever and.
So cut the
But
milk jug and then tape it back together.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she said you have to make like 6 holes in the bottom of the jug.
There you go.
So that
Allow for
moisture
some
can get
drainage.
out,
And,
yeah.
yes. Yeah, that's excellent. You do that as well?
For some things.
Yeah. What kind of things do you use that for?
I put scabiosa and some bachelor buttons and kale, just different things to kind of get them started. And it was nice because you can just put them out and forget about them.
Yes, that's the good one. That's the good point about it. I like that too.
Yeah, she does veggies for tomatoes.
Does she?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. These are great ideas. I love the different ideas and things that different people do. And there's so many ways to do it. I don't think there's really a wrong or right way, if you will. It's a lot of experience, experimentation, a lot of those things. So these are a great idea. Anybody have other things that they've used to be creative like that? Excellent. Okay. Good discussion. Good. All right, so let's talk about moisture, light, and temperature. So you see here on these pictures, they've put their seeds in. They've used their popsicle sticks. These people are bad. They did not label. So another option is to cover the container with clear bag, plastic. Some of them come with these covers that you can purchase. And I did see ones like this on Amazon with the lid as well. And what this is going to do, it helps keep the moisture moist until germination. So, and I put this definition here just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Germination is the development from the seed into a plant, if you will, a seedling. So this will keep the moisture contained a little bit, and it's going to keep you from having to water. Before we talked about the soil, you mixed your soil, your peat mix, your seed starting mix that up with a little water, so you've got the moisture in there. If you put these lids on it, it keeps the moisture going. Now, if this thing starts to form a film, really a lot of moisture in there, pop it up a little bit and give it a little air movement. You want to be careful that you're not creating mold, that there's too much moisture in there. So just be careful with that. And then if you need to add some water, use a spray bottle, add a little water. You shouldn't have to add too much water in this instance as you're starting the seedlings. All right, and then we want to place the seeds in a warm location for germination. Germination needs a temperature of around 70. There are some cool plants. Broccoli and cabbage are a couple of examples. Your seed packet, of course, will tell you that as well. They'll prefer cooler temps. So who has a temperature-controlled room or situation that they use? Tricky, right? It's tricky. Not many people have the resource of one room is going to be a certain temperature, certain humidity. So though they say it's best, there are still different options of what you can do. So I placed a little bit of extra tips here. So never put near a windowsill. Why do we not want our seeds next to a windowsill? Too much sunlight, number one. What's the second thing?
Draft.
Yes, drafts from the windowsill. Yes, those are the two big keys. You don't want direct sunlight on your seedling or as they're germinating, and you don't want the cool drafts. I mean, here we are, mid-April, and you're wearing your winter coat in. I'm wearing, fleece pajamas still. There's still cool days happening. So we want to be sure we're not getting that coolness into a room. All right, any comments about moisture, light, or temperature? Watch for direct sunlight, not near a windowsill. Yes?
Do you ever recommend a heating pad or a electric blanket or
Yes.
something? Because I feel like I don't have good germination, and I think it's because I don't have them warm enough, maybe.
Yes, I'm glad you said that because somebody asked me the last time I was talking about this, and I meant to add it in there so I wouldn't forget to say something, so I'm glad you did. Yes, you can use heating pads underneath. My friend that I was visiting yesterday, it was a heating pad. I've never seen it. It was almost like a heating pad made for that situation. I'm sure you can buy anything like that for the right price. Any sort of rolled heating pad you can make. I don't know if you want to use a blanket necessarily. Maybe. I don't know if that's a bad idea. Not heard of that, but so we used to raise pigs when I was a kid, and they had those heating pads for the piglets to keep them warm. We still have some of those at my dad's house. Those would be good things to use. Clearly, just make sure if you're using those kind of things that your electrical outlets are safe, not cracked, your plug-in is secure, and that you're keeping an eye on that. So yes, thank you for reminding me to say that. Anybody else? Okay. All right, another thing. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more with the seedlings, but actually I'm going to wait. But you can also use, a lot of people use the shelving units and then use like shop lights, the fluorescent lights. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more coming out, but that's another option that we'll talk more in depth in a minute. So seedlings, a seedling is once you start getting the plant that's coming out, that's your seedling. So they need a lot of sunlight once they get started. So you're going to get to a south-facing Window, good option. I have no south-facing windows in my house, so it's a little bit tricky for me. And here, fluorescent lights. They are tried and true situations. How many have ever used fluorescent lights in their seedling situation? Yep, excellent, good. Do you have like shelves with the lights hanging down?
I build them out of wood frame.
Yeah.
On the lights
Nice.
on that.
Nice, that's good. I have a friend that she was starting this a year ago, and she put out there on social media somehow, hey, if anybody's getting rid of old shop lights, I'd love to buy them. She got tons of old shop lights for like $5 with the bulb and the shop lights in. So if you have a need for something with this, put it out there. People are always looking to get rid of things, right? So LED lights is sort of a new thing that is coming around. The LED lights that deliver the red and the blue spectrum are your best bets. Those are the spectrums that our plants need and will use most efficiently. So as you've got these lights on your plants, keep them about 3 to 4 inches from the tops of your seedlings. So you're going to have to pay attention as they grow. You may have to continue to move your lights. Give yourself ample space as you start this project. Remember, things are going to grow. So make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of space to move that. You don't want leaf burn to happen. And never overwater. It's a tricky thing, right? So don't overwater. You don't want to flood your seeds. But you don't want them, dying off and wilting. So just watch your soil. Keep track of kind of what your temperature is like, and then water them as you need. Okay, who's heard of damping off? Okay, so we're going to talk about damping off here. So this is an example of a good seedling that started. It's got a strong stem here. This one's pretty skinny down here. It's falling over at the ground level. So damping off is a fungus, and it's easily spread across your flat. So if you've got this open flat and you're starting to see this situation, you're going to want to take care of this quickly. So you're going to want to dig out that seedling as well as the soil that's around it and get rid of that. If you start seeing this is spreading quickly, then you might want to use some fungicide. Excuse me, I don't know why I could get that word. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a fertilizer or a fungicide expert. Follow directions on the labels. And the cause of this damping off fungus is when you've got too high a temperature and if there's poor lighting or excessive moisture. So things we've all talked about already: temperature, light, water. So just keep track of how things are looking. If you don't get a hold of this pretty quickly, that fungus will spread right through your whole tray and you'll lose all your plants. So try and keep track of that. Yeah?
You can put you ever use neem oil?
I have not heard of
Put a little
that.
neem oil in the water.
Really? Yes?
Because a lot of potting mixes, you will get little gnats.
Yes.
And
That's
if
true.
You put a little neem oil in the water and spray it, keep the gnats and help the fungus.
How do you spell that?
Neem.
Do you know how to spell that?
It's spelled N-E-E-M.
Yeah.
In my
Neem.
search online,
Thank you.
it looks like there's a variety of products that feature neem oil in it, but neem oil, as George is saying, can be purchased on its own.
And added.
I only know that from a Google search here, George.
So,
So if you have any more questions, George is the expert.
that's right, George is the one. I like it. See, this is good. This is what I love. I love also learning myself. All of us can learn from each other. So that's excellent. Thanks, George. Anybody else use that? No? Okay. Okay. Leggy plants. How many have heard of leggy plants or had some experience? Yes. Okay. So, again, temperature. Temperature is important. Seedlings, we talked about how the seeds, as they're germinating, prefer around 70-ish. So our plants, our seedlings, prefer around 60 degrees. If it's too warm, then that can cause some leggy plants. So we see here, this stem, pretty small. We don't have a lot of fullness of growth on our seedlings here, kind of skinny. And they'll also start to bend over a little bit. So you see here the difference. We've got some leggy plants here, not really abundant and full. These look much better. This is what we want to see, right? So if you're starting to have this problem, we might have too much nitrogen in the soil, but check your temperature of your room or your area. Two of the biggest reasons for that.
Light's one of the biggest reasons.
Yeah?
If you don't get enough light, they'll search for the light. They're trying to get to the light.
That's right. And then instead of being able to just grow, they're searching instead. Yes, very good point. So you want to continue, like the couple of slides back, keep your light 2 to 3 inches or so and keep it moving. So you're right, so they don't have to work so hard at just reaching for the sky for it. Okay, like I said, I'm not a fertilizer expert. I'm not even going to pretend like I am. But you can use some fertilizer, some soluble houseplant fertilizer at half strength or so. You don't want to just slam this fertilizer on them. Give them a little bit, half of what the packaging says. Then 2 weeks later or so, use what the label recommends. And a fertilizer label, I just added this on there just for your information. Does anybody use fertilizer frequently? I'm pretty familiar with it. Yes. So you'll see a fertilizer bag under the name of the fertilizer or whatever. It's going to have 3 numbers with a dash between them. That's your nitrogen level, then your phosphate level, then your potash level. So before we started tonight, we talked a little bit about soil sampling. And I think Jonathan maybe mentioned soil sampling in one of the previous ones. So we can do soil sampling through the extension offices. And the soil sample then comes back with recommendation of what you should add to your soil for the best yield. And it's going to give us these numbers, a 3600, something of that nature. And that's going to tell us how much fertilizer is in the package that you're buying of each of these nutrients. And I think I maybe even mentioned this before. Fertilizer can cause quite a bit of damage. So we have a picture here, a pretty good looking plant, and then we've got pretty would be maybe burned kind of looking situation there. So just be careful with fertilizer. Maybe call Jonathan. He's a good one. Call your extension office, and if your extension office doesn't know, we're going to recommend you to somebody that does. Our job is not to pretend like we know the answers, but to provide the resources of the people or the locations that do know the answers. Or talk to an experienced gardener like George. Call him up. Okay, transplanting. So if we've got those containers we saw at the beginning, those little individual containers, your seedlings are growing, your roots are growing, things are looking excellent. We don't want to root bound these plants. We want to be able to give them an opportunity to continue to grow before we take them outside. So you may need to transplant them into larger containers. Now, if you start out with an open flat and you really spread your plants out, you might not need to necessarily transplant because you've already given them ample space from the beginning. So again, planning ahead, as we talked about in that first slide, have a plan of attack of what you want your final greenhouse, room, sunroom, bedroom to look like as you continue to let things grow. All right? Okay. So this looks very similar to my friend's that I was at yesterday. She's got these shelves that she got at Meyer. Put those in. She's got these shop lamps with her fluorescent lights on there. See how here she's got the chains on her light as well? Gives her ample opportunity to move those lights up and down as needed for her plants. Okay, so when you transplant, you want to be super careful. These are still super fragile little seedlings that you're working with. So resist the temptation to get them around the stem area. That's going to possibly cause some damage. So instead, hold them by their leaves, or if they're in separate containers, touch the soil around the bottom. But try and stay away from their stem. So you'll want to separate these seedlings. If you're in the flat, it's possible that your roots are growing together. So just gently work the soil, get those roots separated a little bit. You might have to cut the roots. I know that goes against a lot of what we want to do, but it might be better and safer for the plant in the long run if you cut it versus continuing to tug and pull and jerk and work this out. And then again, kind of as we mentioned already, you might need some more lights. You might need another shelving unit with your shelves further apart so you continue to grow with your seedlings. Okay, harden plants. How many know what harden your plants mean? I feel like many of you will. Yeah, okay. So, I want opinions. When I'm done with what I'm saying, I want you guys to share how you harden your plants as well. Okay? So 2 weeks prior to planting them outside, place them outside for a few hours in the shade during the warmth of the day. Don't put them direct out in the sunlight, right on your patio, in the heat of the day. We want to transition these plants, get them tougher, get them growing, get them strengthened, hardening the plant. And you want to bring them back inside during the overnight. Then each day, leave them out a little bit longer, continue to bring them in at night. Start to expose them to sunlight. Don't expose them to sunlight. The first time you expose them to sunlight, don't do it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with the sun full blue blazing, and your plants are going to be like, what is going on? I would love it. They're not going to love it so much. It's going to shock them a little bit. So this is definitely a transitional period for them. Okay, reduce your frequency a little bit of watering. Don't allow them to wilt, obviously. Keep your eye on that. Now the recommended time is 2 weeks here, where they can start staying outside in a sunny area until planting. You can just leave them outside. A key here, I would say, is just to remember, keep your eye on the weather. Watch for a late frost. Watch for really cool nights. Might want to put them under like an awning. Maybe, putting them in a garage when there's a hard freeze coming is not going to hurt anything. If you need to wait for 3 weeks to put them out in your garden, it's okay too. So don't worry about a hard, fast 2 weeks. Just be flexible. The key is to remember healthy and hardened plants is what we're looking for. Yes?
And the 2 week or 3 week or whichever it is from the date you start hardening the plants?
Yes, right. Yes, thank you. Yes, from the day you start hardening the plants until you're ready to put them on out into the garden. Yes, good. Now it says here a light frost shouldn't damage them. That's true, but I'm one that's going to bring them inside. If there's a frost coming in, I don't trust it. That's research that says that, but Heather's heart says, nope, bring them inside, cover them up.
You only want to throw them outside until they get the true leaves on them. But I call them baby leaves or something.
Yeah.
But you don't want to throw them outside until the true leaves come on it, until the baby leaves fall off.
Yeah, they're going to, make sure that they're a good, strong
The true leaves.
plant.
It has 2 sets of leaves.
2 sets, okay. Good. Anybody else have some tips they want to share?
Well, how do you know the baby leaf from the true leaf?
The true leaves will look just like a mature plant. The baby leaves will look, it just doesn't look like the original plant leaf. And actually it'll turn yellow, brown, and it'll fall off.
So these look more like a true leaf, right, George?
Yeah.
Where they're starting to really look like what the plant is going to look like when it's growing and grow in the middle of the season. Not just those little kind of spindly little kind of things, right? Yep, good. Anybody else have tips for hardening or experiences that you've had with that? Or don't do this? I have a don't do this tip. Yeah?
Make sure that it's not an area where your dogs
Excellent tip. Don't put them in the path of humans or animal. Good tip. That's very good. So when I was first learning all of this kind of stuff, well, I guess really before I learned this stuff, I wasn't going from the seed. I was just buying the plant at a store, and then I share my garden with my parents at their farm. So I bought the plant that was indoors in the store, took it to my parents' house, set it in the section protected from our dogs, which is good, that we always kind of keep the plants or the flowers out before we're ready to plant them. And I just put them right out there. So I went right from the store indoors, right out here, full sun, no protection from anything. There you have it. Good luck. How many of those did I lose? Almost half. Because I slammed them right out there. And I said, good luck to you. And they died. So any sort of experience like that any of you guys have had? Yep.
If I get mine on a Wednesday, I usually don't plant them until a Saturday or so, just to give them a couple days to kind of get acclimated.
Yes. And you probably don't put them full on in direct sun on your
Right.
front porch.
I usually give them a drink when I get them home. Because
Yes.
I really need it.
Good. That's good.
If you start your seeds inside before you harden them off, you can take a fan and have a fan blow on them,
Yes.
and that's, it's the same as the wind blowing on them. The plant thinks the wind's blowing, so it gets stronger.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that. That's the other thing. The heating pad I got to add and remember, and the fan. Yes. Definitely. That helps them that kind of pre-hardens them, if you will, right? It gets them prepared as they're growing from the seedling into the plant. Excellent. Yes. Anybody else? Yes, Beth.
That was actually similar to my question. I'm not a gardener in my family. I support the gardener.
There you go.
But
Also important.
for the seedlings when they're hardening off, should you rotate them so the wind hits them at different angles? Is that important? Or if you're doing it indoor with a fan, you just move the fan around the different parts of the room for the plant?
I just turn
Go
my
ahead.
tray around.
Yep.
Oh, well, that's easy.
Just turn the tray around.
Beth's trying to make it all hard over here. Yes, right. Just switch your your tray around. Yes, that's right. Or you can do the dance with your fan, whatever you want, Good. These are all helpful tips that everybody's had. Experience is the best teacher. So anything you guys have to help each other out is excellent. Okay. So now we're ready. We've hardened our plants. We're ready to go outdoors. Hopefully there's no more frost coming. Here we go. Hot frost or freeze. So again, to help them in this transition phase, now you're going from the plant now into the ground, another shock to this plant, if you will. So for that instance, we're going to do it on a cloudy day, later in the day, not when it's really hot again. We want to give our plants every opportunity to transition as easily as we can. Remove the plants from the container. I always put my hand kind of through the plant and then dump the container. I don't pull my plants. I just flip them upside down and dump them. That allows less damage to the plant. Also helps keep my hand full of as much soil as possible. Okay, so peat pots. How many of you guys use peat pots? You do? Okay, a couple of you do. So if you're using those peat pots, yes, they can be planted right into the soil, and that's what they're marketed as. That's the benefit that we're told that it is. And I agree with that. Yes, these are excellent things. But I would also recommend breaking the base open. That allows for your roots to really get a move on and get a good stand, and helps with some water drainage. It will still work if you leave them in the peat pot. But in my opinion, my experience, they work a little better if you break them apart. Have you found the same experience, those of you that have used that? Yeah, okay. All right, and then dig hold, sorry, misspelling, can't believe I didn't catch that. Dig your hole twice as large as the soil around the roots. You want to get yourself a big hole. You don't want to cram your plant into about the same space that you've got. You get yourself a good sized hole there. And then again, avoid the Heather situation of packing. Put your soil loosely around the roots. And then if you wish, you can add a fertilizer to your plant once you have it going. And then of course, off they go. And now we got to keep track of the water, watch our weather. If we need to, cover them if a frost comes. And just keep an eye on weeding, the thing everybody hates. So does anybody have some excellent tips on weeding in their garden? It's the nemesis of all gardeners, right? Yes?
Years ago, my husband worked for Troyville, and that was when raised beds were starting to.
Yes.
And that was the buzzword.
Yep.
And is it Jonathan?
Yes.
He talked about mulching around the plants to keep weeds and things like that down.
Yep.
So.
Yep, that is true. Mulch is supposed to keep the weeds out. I think it does a pretty good job.
Yeah,
so
because it
mulching
looks
does.
like there's mulch there.
Yep. Has anybody used the plastic, I don't know what that's called, or the, yeah, have you used that before? Do you feel like that works pretty well?
We use quite a bit, and we use probably 5 truckloads of mulch in the summer. So
Okay, good.
between the
So you do a bit of a combo of different
Yeah.
things. Yep.
And we weed a lot also. And I find if you weed when the ground is wet, it is much easier.
Definitely.
That's a little tip.
Yes, we've got a lot of
I have
clayish
a lot
type
of
soil.
rain.
Yes. That's good. Good tips. Good tips. And you know, everybody knows, trying to get the root out of the weed.
Yeah.
Hoeing is really good exercise. So if you want to get some exercise, get a hoe, do that. Get some workout, get your heart rate going. Be careful, like shoveling snow, don't have a heart attack. Be careful. All right, any other tips on planting outdoors? Okay, so with that, I am finished with what I have. What I have up here is, so Area 7, Extension has areas like a lot of places do. Area 7 contains 11 counties: Wayne, Fayette, Union, Rush, Madison, Henry, Delaware, Randolph. The Ag and Natural Resources educators, we started in February with the Starting Seeds presentation, and each month we have what we call a lunch and learn that we are putting out there. It's free to register. You see March 18th, we did one about the raised garden beds. One was done today about weed control in your lawn. That was an excellent one, I think, for me. I'm not sure if you can go to Fayette County Extension's website. I shared the weed control on my Extension Facebook page. I know Delaware County shared it on theirs, Randolph County. So if you search on Facebook, Purdue Extension whatever county, Fayette County, Wayne County, you should be able to, we were all hoping to get that shared. So if you can't find it in one county that you're looking at, try and look for another one in a surrounding county if you're interested in that. And the next one is coming up with Jonathan on May 20th about ponds. Does anybody here have ponds on their property? So Jonathan is an excellent pond expert, I would say, in the state. He really is an excellent resource if anybody has questions about ponds. So if you have friends, you're welcome to do this. If you want to leave me your email and tell me which one, I can send you that link to register if you'd like me to. If you're comfortable sharing your email with me, and just let me know which ones you want. I can sign you up for them, or, no, that's not what I meant to say. I can send you the email with the link to sign up for that. June 17th is composting with Amy Alka. She's from Randolph County. And then July, all these flowers are becoming beautiful, and someone brought in this beautiful flower arrangement here for Beth today. But we're going to have a lunch and learn about cutting flowers and flower arranging, so if you're interested in that. And then we'll have our DPAC Field Day. That's an annual event that Extension has. A lot of times that's geared more towards field crops, farmers, and we'll be talking about pesticide damage and drift. So if you're interested, as I said, with any of those, leave me your email and tell me which one you're interested in. It's just easier to do that than for you to try and write this down, and I should have brought copies of that. So
Why don't I offer to, I can just send that information
Oh,
out
sure.
in an email to the whole
mass
group.
email, perfect.
If you're all right with
Yes,
me
please
promoting
do.
it,
Please
then
do.
I've got everybody's email sent. I'll zap another email out. If anybody has questions, you can call me, or you can get in touch with Heather through the
Absolutely.
Purdue
Is this
Extension
down in
plan.
Connersville?
This is all virtual. Good question. I'm glad you asked
Oh,
that. This is
virtual.
just virtual.
Oh.
So you can watch it live. It's from noon to 1. You can watch it live, or you can go to our Facebook page later. So like I mentioned, I've shared it now on my Facebook page for Fayette County, so you can go now and watch that one, or you can watch it live. The advantage to doing it live is that you can ask questions, and we answer questions during that webinar. So if you've got something specific, it's a little bit easier to ask questions.
So what was the website again, Fayette County?
Purdue Extension - Fayette County. And I think, and Wayne County's, I believe, is just Purdue Extension - Wayne County. Wayne County's got two. One is a 4-H Facebook page, and one is an extension page. You know what, and maybe, let me get my phone. Instead of searching for it, I know what it is. I'll give you guys Wayne County's as well. All right, is everybody here from Wayne County too?
Purdue Extension, Cooperative Extension, Wayne County.
There you go. I knew theirs was a little different. Yes, thank
And
you.
then underneath it says Wayne County 4-H.
Yeah, Purdue University Cooperative Extension, Wayne County. Yep, you got it. That's the one. That's the Facebook page that Jonathan monitors, and he puts a lot of the ag and natural resources stuff on it. And ours is just one for ag and natural resources and 4-H stuff, so we're a combo. But if you're interested in Wayne County 4-H as well, you can search for that. So. But these have been pretty successful. For the February one I did on the seed starts here, we had about 300 registered that attended, so that was pretty exciting. Today, I think we had close to 70 on the one about weed control. Ponds, we're anticipating it's going to be a pretty big one. We get lots of questions at extension offices about ponds, of course algae and moss and fish and that type of stuff. And then of course composting is becoming very popular. And the raised garden beds should be on people's Facebook page. If it's not, let us know if you can't find it, and we can let you know where that's at.
You mentioned earlier that you were talking about soil testing.
Yes.
Everybody can in.
Yep.
Is that something that the Wayne County
Yes,
office does too? Because
Yep.
I would love to have that done.
absolutely. So call Jonathan for his procedures for sure, because each extension office is a little bit different. But what I do is that people come in to me, we fill out the paperwork together, I give you the bag that you need to put the sample in and the instructions, send you home with that as well as the address label for where it's going to go. Then you take that home, dig several spots for getting a soil sample, mix it together, dry the sample, put it in the bag, and then mail it out. The soil sample testing is 2 to 3 weeks for it to come back. This time of year it's starting to become a little bit longer. They've got more field crop testing coming in and stuff. So already, gosh, in the past month, I think I've sent 6 or 7 samples out. That's something that All extension offices can do. Yep, absolutely.
And do you know about how much that runs?
It's, I would say that the average is around 10 per sample.
He said 11.
Did he say 11? Okay, thank you. Okay. So we all send ours to some different labs, so it depends on which lab, and I wasn't sure where he sent his. So 11 sounds all right. Yep. Mine's only 7 if you want to come to mine.
My dirt.
And then we'll get the results back to our office with the recommendations, and then we communicate back with you. We'll send you a copy of that, and then we'll go from there. So, absolutely.
I actually, my notes from last week say the soil testing actually was 15, and it was 11 for the disease sample diagnosis.
Okay. Okay.
That's what I'm pretty sure that's the correct notation, but 11 was for the disease.
Okay. Okay.
Which was the topic for last week, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he sends to a different lab than I do. So that's the only difference between that. We don't make money off of soil samples. It's whatever the lab is going to charge our office is what we charge out. Any other comments, questions? Yep.
When you send in a soil sample to the lab,
Yes.
you get a phenomenal amount of information. The pH
Yes.
of your soil, what diseases they might see, what they recommend for vegetables, what they recommend for flowers. It's worth it.
I agree. It's got some good information. And when you fill out the initial paperwork, you say, is this a vegetable garden? Is this a flower garden? Is this a fruit area? So you can be more specific for what you need. But it does, you're right, it gives you a lot of good information. The pH, and then if your pH is off, it gives you a recommendation of what to do about it. And it even goes so far in to say, if you have this type of soil, this is what you want to do, or this type of soil. So I agree. I think they're very helpful. And a lot of people, I think, are becoming more educated in the sense of don't guess. Don't just throw some lime on your garden. Don't just throw some mushroom mulch. Don't just throw stuff on there trying. You're going to waste a lot of money. So getting a soil sample is very beneficial, and I recommend that for sure.
And the disease sampling she mentioned, so if you think you have something going on, fusarium wilt or whatever,
Yes.
you can take
So-
a sample down to them, or?
Yes,
what?
go ahead and take a sample. I have not sent out if he sent off for the disease. Jonathan can probably just tell by looking at a lot of stuff. But don't ever be afraid to bring in any sort of sample to the extension office. If you have a weed, if you have a yellow leaf and you don't know what's going on, why it's yellow, bring anything in, any bugs that you find somewhere that you're like, what the heck is this? This is eating everything up. How do I take care of this? Bring samples. Those are excellent for us to be able to do research on and figure out how we can help you out. And with our Area 7 group, we're a really tight and close team. So if I don't know, if Jonathan doesn't know, he can find out right away from the rest of us. He'll send an email and say, hey, anybody got some ideas on this? So we're an excellent resource for each other. So never be afraid to bring in anything that you see. Jonathan's really good at diseases. All right.
Well, thank you so
Yes.
much for the presentation. We
Yes,
really
thank
appreciate
you. I
it.
appreciate you asking me.
We have a very small token
Oh
of
my gosh.
thanks for you. So we appreciate
Appreciate
your
that.
expertise.
Thank you.
And we do have 2 more sessions coming up. We'll continue to have these on tape. They will be available on our YouTube channel. If you looked for our last one, it was delayed, but it's up now on our YouTube channel and Facebook Live. As I mentioned before, the resources from the library, you can take those and check them out if you'd like. Most of them are coming from section 635, which is the gardening section upstairs. There's many, many more resources up there. Take a packet of seeds if you like. If you need more variety, I've got more over here. And if you can either turn in your form or leave it upside down on your table and I'll come collect them. And then there's a piece of chocolate for you, the sweet treat for filling out your form. We appreciate
There
you.
go. And a seed packet, right?
And a seed packet, that's just for coming. Yes, of course. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.